Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. D. I like Dr. D. You correct me though, Dr. Donna. Thank you so much for joining us. I really am excited about having you and talking about this topic of sex. That's something
thank you for having me.
Away from. Yes. So I think this is a really good topic, and I think who else better to talk about sex than you, right? Yes. So let people know, before we get started and jump into it, let people know who you are, what you do, where you're located, and all the good things, all the good nuances, and how they can find you on social.
Absolutely. I am Dr. Donna Oriowo. I help Black women feel free, fabulous, and fucked by helping them to hone in on the desires that they have for themselves and live that life passionately and like they cannot fail. I am the owner of AnnodRight, which is a sex therapy practice in the Washington D.C. metro area. We serve D.C. and Maryland mostly. Virginia, y'all gonna have to wait a second, okay? Because your girl is full. But I'm a sex and relationship therapist. The focus that we have is on colorism and texturism and the impact on mental health and pleasure. And I'm really excited to be here. So yay.
Yay. Awesome. Okay, let's get into this. Let's talk about this. First, how did you even get started on this path to talk about like, hey, I think that's what I want my focus to be on?
People kept telling me their business. Yeah.
Okay. I
feel like you can't ignore the calling. If everybody's going to be all up in your face talking about stuff, well, girl, this is what happened. At some point, I was just like, what are you going to do? It's either you ignore these people or you get additional knowledge so that you can help them properly and get them out your face. Yeah. So I decided to go the route of get more information. And I didn't realize how many things were actually connected to sex and sexuality. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us, we think of sex, we think of the act of sex. But I mean, I put Black Sexuality Matters on this shirt because it's about sex and sexuality, and we're sexual beings from birth till death. So a lot relates back to sexuality. So I think of myself more as a sexuality therapist, though I also talk about sex.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's talk about sex. How important is sex in a relationship?
It is as important as the people in the relationship say it is.
Details on that.
Well, because it's one of those answers that depend, right? If you're in a relationship with somebody and it is a romantic but non-sexual relationship, then sex doesn't matter very much. If it is a romantic relationship where you expect romance as well as sex, now sex has more importance. But the only people that can determine whether or not there is an issue with sex or how important sex is in a romantic relationship or a situationship or whatever it is, that type of shit you in, is the people that are in it. So only y'all can determine whether or not sex is important. And that means that you have to judge your personal importance versus where your partner is also, or your partners are also judging importance of sex.
I love that you say that. So with that, people don't need to be persuaded by other people, such as, oh, you're not having sex, then you're doomed, or you should be doing it this many times a week, or you should do it like this, you know? I love that you said that.
You should tell those people to stay up out your bedroom.
Yeah.
Tell them to stay up out your bedroom. To me, it's like eating meals, right? Or drinking water. Yes, there may be a recommended amount, right? Like across the block, this is what people will say that you should be doing. But ultimately, people tell you to do what? Go back to your doctor and ask them, because your doctor has additional information about your body and your health characteristics that will tell you what you need for that body, for your body chemistry. Same thing goes for your sex life. You cannot do what somebody else is doing. Someone's idea of not enough sex might be 4 times a week, and that for you might be too much sex, right? It's going to be based off you and your partner. And if you spend your life using other people's standards in your sex life, you will always find yourself in in a place of dissatisfaction.
Yeah. I like that you said it's based on you and your partner. What if you and your partner kind of don't see eye to eye on what's a lot or what's not enough? Like one partner said, hey, 2 times a week is good for me. And the partner is like, minimum 5.
Look, most people have discordant sexual desires. You're not going, like we watch TV and it's like their eyes met across the room and they both fell into sex with one another and they both climaxed at the same time. And I'm just like, that's very cute. Right. But most partners are non-concordant. Mm-hmm. It means that someone is going to have a higher sex drive or desire than someone else. And it is going to be up to you to figure out where you are both willing to be. So usually I would say that there's going to be one partner that ends up being the one that determines how often you have sex. And that's going to be according to the low desire partner, not the high desire partner. Mm-hmm. Your wanting more food doesn't dictate what's on my plate. I'm full.
Right. I'm full. Right.
Now, it might be that one has to stretch up and the other one has to reach back, and you try to find a happy medium or a happy enough medium, right? Because we still want to make sure that there is consent, that the desire is mutual as much as it can be mutual, and that you're not violating the needs of the other in order to meet your own needs. So that means that sometimes you may have to handle yourself. If you are the high drive partner, that means that, okay, what can you do to handle your own sex drive in those moments? Because if your partner's already saying, okay, I can do 4 times a week, but I can't do 7. And you're like, well, I need 7 or nah. I'm looking like 7 or nah, that means that you need a new partner. Mm-hmm. If sex is important to you and it is important to you that you have it every single day and that there's never a break, and in that 7, you need to find a partner who is equally wanting the sex that you are wanting. Now, how you find it depends on you and your relationship structure. If you're in a monogamous relationship, that might mean that, hey, some lotion, some lube, and some alone time might be the way that you sort of bridge the gap, right? Mm-hmm. It might be that you are doing other sexual acts that do not involve intercourse, in case intercourse is what you're thinking about when you think about sex. Mm-hmm. Then whatever it is that you think about when you think about sex, you may need to add other acts in that still bring a sense of sexual pleasure that do not violate where your partner is setting a boundary, right? If you are in ethical non-monogamy, I'll be out here cheating, right? But if you're in ethical non-monogamy, then you may discuss what it looks like to bridge the sexual gap with what's missing from other partners. Mm-hmm. So figuring out what works best for the both of you or for all partners involved.
Yeah. What are some other ways that people can think about sex where it's not just intercourse?
Oh, outer course. People think of it as preset, like, oh, it's foreplay or it's sex. And I'm just like, I don't even know what that means. Like every now and then a client would be like, yeah, we had sex. I'm looking like, what does that mean? Define it for me. Because sex is anything that brings you, I think of as carnal pleasure. Carnal sexual based pleasure. And it does not mean that sex equals intercourse. It means that sex is how you define sex. Like sometimes sex could be kissing. I'm looking like, I don't know how many people seen some of those Medea plays, but sex will get you pregnant. Kissing right. So, I mean, oral sex is sex, right? Giving or receiving. Anal sex is sex, giving or receiving. Digit sex, that's what I think of it as. But manual manipulation of the sexual parts is also a type of sex. So if you put your mouth on it, you put your fingers on it, you put a toy on it, whatever it is that you're using within the sexual realm, all of these things count as sex. And it does not rely solely on intercourse or one object entering somebody's body.
I love that you said
I think that we think of sex as intercourse, but if we expand the definition, then it gives us more room for the of sex instead of making it into such a singular, narrow definition that can often leave us wanting more pleasure.
Yeah. I think that, like you said, I think that's awesome that you bring that up and you even talk about that, because I've seen, even with friends and family, but definitely with clients, where you have the historical relationship. Typically you doing the same thing day in, day out. Both parties are becoming bored or whatever. You may have children. One may be pursuing a career, and then, sex kind of intercourse goes by the wayside, but talking about different ways, right? Of having pleasure that is not just intercourse. Like maybe it is something else that you can do a real quick 5 minutes. I mean, intercourse can happen in 5 minutes too, but it opens up the realm where it doesn't have to
often not good intercourse.
But it opens it up where you can think about other ways where it is not just intercourse. It is a multitude of things that you can do to please yourself and your partner, right? When it comes to our partner.
And some of those things don't even require your body. You can sext each other. Sex, make it sexy, do pictures, do words, have your partner imagine, and maybe they touch themselves. But it doesn't mean that you're not involved. You're still involved in the process because you have helped to titillate them in that way.
Yeah.
And I just think about all the ways that sex could be enjoyed that we don't enjoy because we have reduced it down to intercourse alone.
Yeah. How did we get there where it got reduced just to intercourse? Is it media?
The patriarchy. I blame white supremacist patriarchy for almost everything, this included. Because it has, number one, it has said that those who are feminine do not have an interest in sex, and that they shouldn't have an interest in sex if they are doing femininity properly. Masculine folk, they are supposed to be the ones that are the most interested in sex. They're supposed to lead sex, and they're supposed to lead sex with their phallocentric, whatever the thing is. So whether it's their penis or their phallic shaped toy, whatever it is, they're supposed to be the ones to lead sex, which means that sex then centers around the penis. It doesn't center, and it centers around masculine pleasure. It does not center feminine pleasure and what feminine folk might find to be pleasurable. Because we are so honed in on, well, did the penis have an eruption? If the penis had an eruption, then that also signifies the end of sex. So an erection signifies the beginning, and ejaculation signifies the end. I'm looking like, well, what about me?
Yeah.
What about my needs? Right? And I think that because of that, it gets lost in the sauce. And when you add in the white supremacist part of it, or the white supremacist delusion, it also further delineates whose sexuality is seen as being good, right, and pure, and whose is seen as being deviant. And Black and brown folk, our sexuality is often seen as deviant.
Yeah. Do you think because of that, or have you seen in your interactions, or just what your knowledge of it, do you think is that a reason why women may lose interest in sex, because it is always centered around the penis?
I think that it's less exciting when it's not centered around you.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. I think that loss of interest I usually have people look at several things when they say that there has been a loss of interest in sex. Number one, I'm wondering, is it loss of interest of sex with this partner? Because then I'm looking like, well, what's going on within the context of your relationship? What has changed in the context of your relationship? that may have sort of diminished the desire for sex, right? Because sometimes if you're mad at your partner, if you're feeling like your partner is not leading well, if you're into them leading, depending on, we're not going to talk about submission, right? But if it's about that, if it's about, oh, well, they're not being aggressive enough, or, oh, they're being too aggressive, or they don't help me around the house, or they won't talk to me, they don't give me attention in the way that I like, or they're not giving me love in the way that I receive love, and only ever want to have sex with me. If there have been no other deposits into the relationship, and it feels like there's only a withdrawal, but only for sex, then that can also diminish desire.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about the global view of the relationship, but also the global view of your life. Did your work schedule change? Do you like your boss? I feel like a lot of people would probably say no to that, right? How's your commute? How are you dealing around your thinking about monkeypox or COVID? Like, how are all of these things sort of playing into your daily stress and your daily stressors? Mm-hmm. How are you managing these things? How do you build context around sexuality and sexy time? Because for a lot of us, we don't build any context around it. We just think that we're supposed to want to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm looking like, well, you don't want to go to work, but you still build context, right? You pick out your work clothes. You think about you reorder your day. You're thinking about it, right? You're giving energy to work, to what it takes for you to be there on time, to the work that you're going to do, to how you're going to show up. And I can't get people to give half of that to their sex life.
Yeah.
Because we have been taught that it is spontaneous, that sex is supposed to be spontaneous, that if it's really passionate and you really love your partner and you're really attracted to them, that you don't need to build context because it's always there under the surface.
I love it. So,
but it's mostly responsive. It's not spontaneous.
Exactly. So does that mean that we should schedule sex?
If you want to have it, I would say you schedule it.
Is that like your golden rule of thumb? Is that something that we all should be doing?
I mean, I believe that you should schedule pleasure and pleasurable things, sensual pleasure, carnal pleasures. I believe that you should schedule the things that are important to you. Your workday is scheduled. You don't have to guess when you're going to work for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. If you are an hourly worker, they give you a schedule. They tell you when you are going to be due to show up to the space, from what time to what time you're working. We know this, right? That has helped us to build context. Mm-hmm. It helps us to build anticipation or dread, depending, right? Depending on the job. So you already have all these things that are working for you in that context. But with sex, we say it's supposed to be spontaneous. That you're just supposed to be so overcome with sexual desire at random times of day or night that you are ready to do it right here, right now. Mm-hmm. We schedule when we eat, right? Like, it's like, oh, well, I know if I don't eat at 9 o'clock, I won't be able to eat until blah, blah, blah. We schedule breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it's important for us to eat. We have schedules for work. Why don't we schedule sex? Because we have been taught that it's spontaneous, and simultaneously that we should not value it as much as we value work. Because if you valued it, you would schedule it. When you want to spend time with your honey bunny, with your boo thing, you're going to be like, we're having date night, or we have a date scheduled. Right. You schedule vacations. You don't just okay, so some people do, but those without bread probably don't. But we schedule these things, and we don't say that they took the excitement out of it either, right? Mm-hmm. If I schedule a trip to Disney, my excitement about Disney is not diminished because it was a planned trip.
It's actually building up, and I'm so excited about that day to come.
Exactly. What would happen if we use the same sort of context to build up our sex lives, to schedule it, and to be in anticipation of this thing happening, instead of saying that it's supposed to happen randomly? Because if you said that Disney was supposed to happen randomly, you know what would happen? You probably wouldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
If I said, well, we'll just randomly go on a trip to New York, to Boston, we'll randomly go to Tahiti or Dubai, you would look at me like, you don't have to plan that? Like, right. You got a whole schedule full of clients that you're supposed to see. You have obligations that you need to meet. You're not going to plan that. You're just going to show up.
You're just going to go.
Right? And on top of that, some countries, you can't do that. You can't just show up at an airport, right? Mm-hmm. Because some of them are wanting you to take a COVID test. Right. Some of them want you to get a visa. Right. So you have to do what? Plan and be planful. Mm-hmm. But where it comes to sex, we don't do that. We don't practice making sex an integral part of our lives that deserves time and space for our mental energy to plan it and to be in anticipation of having it.
Mm. I like it. I think, well, what about the people that don't know how to plan it or how to schedule it? Or not only do they not know how, even bringing it up to their partner, because their partner is like, well, if you do that, then it's not spontaneous. And that's what it's supposed to be. How do you have that conversation with your partner? And then how do you plan it?
All right. How do you have the conversation with your partner? I love this question. First, you can talk to them about how your sex life is important to you and you feel like it has been lacking and that you would like to have more sex. And while you're happy that you both have spontaneous desire for sex, that you also want to make sure that you plan some sex because you have some outfits and some ideas, right? So you see what that just did? Mm-hmm. It builds up anticipation and makes it sexy. Like, look, I got an outfit and spontaneous sex is not going to make me wear this outfit. We need to plan, right? So you can do it in that way. You can also do it in a way where you bring in actual knowledge. There is a book. Ooh, I feel like I'm sitting next to it somewhere. It's right in here. I got too many daggone sex books.
I know it.
Oh, right there it is. Boom. Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. Talks about building sexual context and the importance and the difference between spontaneous and non-spontaneous sex. And that if you're planning sex, you're more likely to have it. Some people just need to hear the science behind it so that they have an understanding that spontaneous sex really doesn't actually exist because we're always responding to stimuli. And it is the idea around the sex drive is what's on the gas and what's on the brake, right? Mm-hmm. When you're thinking about work, that might be on the brake. Mm-hmm. When you're thinking about, oh, my house is dirty, right. Brake. When you're thinking about all the things on your to-do list, these things hit the brake. Right. But if you have designated time for sex, say you've got 2 hours. And it's 2 hours on a Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, on Wednesday, we're not watching out on Netflix. We're not watching I'm trying to get into it, lover. You're building context. And when you like, and you send a picture, this the outfit I'm finna wear. You build context. Mm-hmm. These are things that hit your gas. Yeah. You like, come home and take that shower, lover. Context. I've been waiting for this all week. Context. Sending sexy text messages because Wednesday night finna be popping. Context. Yeah. Candle lights and a nice light dinner because you're about to get into vigorous exercise. Context.
I love it.
So you get to build up context in this way. You get to talk about it in this way. Yeah. And it builds on itself. And I mean, it also gives you time you want to read sexy books and passages or listen to sexy podcasts or whatever it is that you need to help you further get into the context, you have time to do it, because someone's not trying to have sex with you when you're doing the dishes.
Right.
Someone's not trying to have sex with you when you're ready to cuss out your boss. Because you protected that time, you're not feeling rushed and thinking about your to-do list for the next day, because this is on your to-do list for the right now.
Right.
So in building that context, you're also able to sort of build a buffer around some mindfulness activity that for the next 2 hours, this is what I'm doing. And it was planned, and I don't have to worry about what else is going to encroach on the time, because baby, we planned this. Yeah. This is protected time for us to be together.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, when you put it like that, I mean, it makes total sense though, right? When you don't, it just like, why weren't we always doing this? Or why we weren't even always taught to do this? I mean, even when you start in a marriage, right? You're starting out being married or being with a partner. I think this is a great conversation to have, right? But because what we already know, it's that something, the inevitable is going to happen. You're going to hit highs and lows. This is perfect to talk about before like entering the marriage. I think, do you have clients that come in and talk about this like premarital?
Premarital, they're dating. They're not even engaged, right? They're like premarital. Some people, they've been together for a minute. Some people are newly married. Some people they've been together forever. But to me, this is, what do they say? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking like, PTO, boo-boo, plan to orgasm. And if you plan to orgasm, and I mean, don't steal my stuff, y'all. It's copywritten, so don't copy me. But PTO is a class that I've done, right? Teaching people how to plan for it. We plan for so many different areas of our lives. And that's part of about being free, fabulous, and fucked. We plan for our mental health. For some of us, we plan for our mental health. We plan for trips. We plan for time with family, but we won't plan for our own orgasms. We won't plan for our own pleasure. Yeah. We don't center it because a lot of us have been taught not to. Mm-hmm. So PTO is about recentering that, right? Free, fabulous, and fucked is about recentering that, about getting free of other people's expectations, feeling fabulous in ourselves, and having a life that is filled with pleasure. That's the fucked. Not just sex, but true, pure, unadulterated pleasure. Yeah. However we experience it. And to stop cutting ourselves off from that, sometimes we do need to plan for it. Mm-hmm. We plan for healthy relationships with ourselves and with others, and we plan for the sex lives we want because we mean it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, that's been totally overlooked. So have you seen that obviously makes relationships better when you are being mindful and meaningful about planning sex and different activities that you may do for your pleasure?
Absolutely. Some of my clients, and I'm gonna give y'all tea because I'm gonna tell y'all to try this as well. We spend all of our time trying to put all of our pleasure on the weekend. All the pleasure happens on the weekend, which is why we don't like Monday, right? Monday ain't did shit to you, but you don't like Monday, right? And I'm just like, well, you don't like Monday because of the way that you live your week. Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday becomes all about work. That's all it is, about anticipation of work and enduring of work and being at work and thinking about work and thinking about what that fucked up coworker over yonder said. You're so stuck in that space that all of your pleasure lives on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday earlier in the day, because Sunday later in the day, you start being in anticipation of Monday. You start getting the Monday blues, right? And I'm just like, well, what would happen if you stuck a planned sexcapade with your partner on a Wednesday? You might start looking forward to Wednesday. Yeah. Hump day, baby. A true hump day, right? If you planned it for Monday, maybe you was looking at Monday like it stole something from you.
Mm-hmm.
If we live to actually incorporate pleasure regularly into our lives, and not just sex, but through the foods that we eat, through the activities that we enjoy, put a date night on a Tuesday night, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you lived in that way where pleasure was centered, where working requires you now to have equal amounts of pleasure, however you do pleasure, even if it's just listening to an album that brings you joy, or watching something that, or seeing something that makes you feel so light and happy and airy, whatever that thing is, you can live a pleasure-filled life where you work. So work can interrupt pleasure instead of pleasure interrupting work, which means it wouldn't be on the weekend, it would just be the week.
Yeah.
And maybe you would stop hating certain days of the week because you would be living in anticipation of your next pleasure escapade.
I love that. Look at you dropping all kind of gems on this thing. Yes, girl. Yes. I hear people changing their lives right now. Like, you know what? I mean, because it really is a new way of thinking. And even just with that one shift in your thought processing, it can change a lot. You're right. Why not be anticipation of Monday? Why does it have to happen, like you say, all on the weekend?
Yeah,
I think
my partner and I, our date nights are more likely to be on a Tuesday or a Thursday than they are to be on any on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Because number one, who's out on Tuesday but us? Not a lot of people.
That part.
There's that.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a lot of competition out here in these streets, but also because it just feels so good to know that on Tuesday, I'm looking forward to spending time with you.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true.
So to build the schedule, pick a time, and both of you should protect that time. That means that both of you need to be practiced in boundaries. So if you need to read the book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Tawwab, read it and then put it into practice so that you can protect that time block that you are setting aside for your sex or for your getting back reconnected time, whatever you want to call it that, but put it on the schedule and block it off. Yeah. I also say do a buffer time. 30 minutes after should also not be available for anyone to be bothering you.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're building context around that time. So building up that anticipation. To listen to sexy stories together, read sexy books. Alyssa Cole is a Black romance writer. Go and read some Alyssa Cole. You know, she got you. Some people watch porn, whatever it is that helps get you both in the mood so that you can be in anticipation, do that. Send pictures to each other. Talk about what, like when you get home, I'm trying to bop, bop, bop. Right? Whatever the thing is, fill it in. And that helps to sort of build in the time. So the same way that you know what your work schedule is, what is your sex schedule? Sit down and plan it together. Look at what you have coming up and what time you can carve out. Protect the time that you carve out. That means phones on do not disturb. I also like to say TV off unless it is some movie of your making or a movie that is going to help you to be doing some making. Whatever it is, that's fine too, right? But just prepare for it like you would work. What is the wardrobe? What is the location? What is the objectives of this meeting? Yeah. Right? Okay. How are you going to meet these objectives?
Yeah. I love it. I think, yeah, that's like, I don't even know what else to add to that. I'm like, yeah, I think just taking on this alone, what you've said, so many jewels and so many things that you can implement right now to start changing that sex life.
And I say, don't wait. Like right now, have the conversation. Yeah. Say, this is what we've been doing and this has been minorly working, but I think that we can really improve our sex lives if we do ... Sometimes read some stuff together. Audiobooks are there, right? Put it on. Maybe y'all read for 30 minutes a day and get this knowledge, not just from this book, but there are a bunch of other books out there, like Mating in Captivity, The Art of Seduction by, where is it? The Ultimate Guide to Seduction and Foreplay by Jess O'Reilly and Marla Renee Stewart. Both of them, super dope, right? There's the Black Girl's Guide to Intimacy. Black Girl's Guide to Couples Intimacy by Dr. Lex. Sex with Dr. Lex. That's where you find, or Lex the Sex Doc.
Okay.
Find her on Instagram.
Okay.
Or TikTok.
Sex
positive parenting, if you're trying to learn how to talk more about sex. And I think that some of the things, the ways that you would learn to talk about sex to a child are applicable to how we learn to talk about sex with each other. And of course, hit me up on the internet. As in, I'm about to have a round of classes. And so many of the other people that I know, like Ask Goody is a great example. Shamira Howard, and she has these lovely cards called Use Your Mouth, as well as a corresponding book. Use Your Mouth. My friend, Dr. Amanda Nicholson, does like the Good Girls Guide to Sex, right? Like Christian girls. So I'm just like, we are out here.
Yeah.
We're Black women.
When are your classes?
Oh, I plan to do some classes starting in September. So healthy relationships. I'm bringing back PTO because some people have been asking me about it. So a lot of my classes, I've run it once and then I never ran it again. I'm gonna do better. There's one called Curls Talk, Conversations, Understanding Relationships, Love, and Sex, but through hair, because I specialize in colorism and texturism. Those things also impact sex and sexuality and our access to it. So I talk a lot about those things. So I'm just, like, girl, just trying to put y'all on game that all the stuff is coming. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will also see who I follow. And I feel like that's a really good way to find other sex educators and therapists. Is to, if you know one, see who they follow, and build your own resource network in that way, so that you're able to get the knowledge, because the way that we all disseminate knowledge is very different. But it doesn't mean that one way is right or that one way is wrong. It's about what's right for you.
Right. Because
my style may not fit everybody. I tend to be very direct, and I'm like halfway funny. I'm not like funny, but I'm like halfway funny. You just got to find the person that has a style that works for you.
Right. I love that you are putting on other therapists, other books, I love that. Cause like you said, your style may not work for some, but hey, I still want you to get the knowledge. I still want you to be able to connect and find what you need. And here are some other options. So I do love that. Thank you. And thank you.
Like game, recognize game. And I'm going to put you on the game. I'm not the only one out here. And, I try my very best not to live in a scarcity abundance mindset.
Yes.
Just like me recommending you to somebody else doesn't mean that you can't still get something from me. And sometimes the thing that you got from me is the other person's name.
Right.
Because that was what you needed. Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it's somebody else.
Right.
So for me, it's all good in the hood.
There you go. So again, let people know who you are, how they can find you. I mean, I feel like you're going to have a plethora of people flooding you now. But,
Flood away. Flood. I am, again, Dr. Donna Oriowo. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Donna Oriowo. My practice Instagram is AnnodRight, AnnodRight. If you are trying to have a little bit more personal face-to-face time in some ways with me, you can also join me every Tuesday at noon. We do a segment for Black women called In My Black Feelings.
Love it.
It's where we we come together so we can be in our Black feelings. I like to think of it as a family meeting where we can literally just be in our Black feelings.
Yeah.
The Facebook group is coming soon, but only to the people who are already, the people who know, and the people who don't.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.